Hello again. It's video 2 of the building along with a build along marking gauge. We were talking during the week after video 1 and the first article about the stem and how to actually create the comma from scratch using only unplugged tools. Obviously, you know, there are ways of doing it, and we've looked at various patents and various articles about using router bits in a router table. That's obviously a fairly easy way of doing it, and I know we've also looked at some of the older articles of how they actually made it using various tools that were made purpose-made. The idea of this whole project is to try to make this gauge using the tools that the average woodworker, even the new woodworker, would have. So I'm trying to restrict myself to that. We talked about the cutting of a rebate in the top of the actual stem here, and as you can see, I've done that with this. Now that forms the first part of the comma. And then from that we can cut away the circle, and it's not quite a circle, it's a progression, a kind of like a linear progression that goes smaller and smaller as it gets to the top of the comma. The way I think to do that, and this is what I'm doing at the moment, is to cut the rebate, and I think, Joe, you cut a curve. So alternatively, using any saw, you could also cut a kerf straight. So that's one way of doing it. I haven't done it that way. What I've used for the time being is a 043 record plane, which I've spoken about before, and loads of other people have come on and said this is one beautiful plane. It's a beautiful little baby, and in the grand scheme of things, it's quite cheap, and it's used for almost everything where you cut in little rebates up to, you know, sort of ½ an inch. You can get them armed with Ray Isles cutters if you want, or the originals. There's a lot on eBay UK, not so much in the States, but well worth trying to get hold of one of these. So what I did was I just simply cut the rebate along it in the vise on the square. Now, when we were making the round, if you remember rightly, where I left it last time was octagonal. So that still fits in the vise. It was left in the vise, actually. And you should quite easily be able to cut either a kerf with a saw or with the 43. And that's the step, the first step of making either in a round or in the square a rebate on the top. At the moment I've only just done it on this because I want to try it out. I think that's the great thing about this build along. I did actually start it out thinking this is going to be easy. I should have learnt from the brace. When I made the brace, I took one look at it and said, oh, it's a bit of wood, a couple of bevels on the side. That was the bit that was worrying me. Ironically, this part was the easiest bit. The bevels, they're mad. Honestly, the Victorians are mad. They start as arrows, and there's an imaginary bevel here, and it gets what? Why? I mean, apart from beauty, why? I think it's just because they can prove that they were superb craftsmen. But what I thought when I started this was it's an easy job. I should have learnt. It's not. It's like everything else that comes from that period. There seems to be a certain amount of subtle ingenuity, and working it out is part of the fun. And I think I did make the mistake of I thought to myself, oh my God, I've got all these people watching how this is going to be built and copying it, and then we end up with something that doesn't work. So that's why I kind of stopped at this moment in time. I know, Joe, you created one that did work, so that's a little bit of comfort. and I'm going to copy that as well. So we start off with the square one. If you want to start with the square one, that's fine. If you've made it into a round, that's fine as well. Just clamp it securely and cut a curve down the length. What you've got to try to do is make sure that that line is a straight line, because obviously this is the bar for the stem. And then the next tool I was going to use just to finish off the snail is in fact the ubiquitous, the common Stanley block plane, 60.5, whatever one you've got, doesn't matter. The idea is to take off the bulk of the stock that's next to. It's a bit fine, isn't it? There you go. To turn it into a round, and the idea is to try to, I don't know if you can see this, you can see there is a shadow. I've marked where it curves round. Now I don't think it needs to be mathematically as accurate as Jim's spreadsheet, thanks Jim, but you gave me an idea there, because you can simply just draw it. I mean, you follow it along, it's from the bottom of the rebate round, coming in and getting further and further towards the edge, so it makes a comma. As long as that is not circular, I think we're okay. I think that's what we found. So the idea is then to just plane off that. I mean, you could literally, you can hold it in your hand and do it with a block plane. I mean, it's not that difficult. Just shaving it off, but making sure that again, as when we did it to try to make a round, you have to keep checking either end to make sure that you're not going over the line. The bit in between is going to be a straight line, so the idea is to take off as much as you can with the plane and just keep going around. And we're going to end up at the end of this with what was the snail of the stem. So that's what we're planning to do. So I'm going to go off and do this, and then in the next video hopefully we'll have one of these completed. The plan is to do the stem, for me anyway. Once I've done the stem, I'll test it in the original head, and then I'll know it'll work. And then once I've done that, it's just a case of drawing this up, and this is just as simple. I think it's about a 5/8 hole, a circular hole in this case, and then just make a notch, because that's all it needs to do. As long as this fits in, and when you twist it, a part that's wider or thicker on the stem here will jam against the circular hole. This doesn't appear to form quite the same snail shape. It's definitely a circle of a 5/8 diameter. I did have a whole bunch of these auger bits. They are ideal for this, because you cut some nice holes with one of these. It's kind of the forerunner of the Forstner bit, and either one of those or one of these. I have no idea what these are called. I will do. And these fit in the brace. So here's another one. This is the one Amy gave me. These fit perfectly in the brace, and they are wonderful because they make there's no tear out. Absolutely no tear out on the edge, because they cut that bit first, as does a Forstner bit. But you can use a Forstner bit, not a problem. Or a twist drill if you want. But we haven't come on to that stage yet. That part is, I hope, is going to be fairly simple, because literally you can get a piece of stock, crappy old bit of scrap like that, make a hole, make the shape you want, as long as it's big enough. Once that's done and you know it's square and it locks, then it's just a case of cutting whatever shape you want. You can cut an octagon, you can cut a, I mean, I've got some beautiful shapes here. This is a scratch. You can see the head on that is beautifully shaped, and the brass insert. This is another Coates England production, a scratch stock. Maybe we'll come on to making something very similar, but this is for making inlays, and in this case for repairing moulding planes. But again, you can see as long as it's square, that's fine. It will work perfectly, and so it doesn't really matter what shape this is. This one is oval. I've got that one's an oval one. I've got another one here which is a different type, which is sort of I don't know what you call that really, a tab shape. So you can have any shape you want. We will be also on the head embellishing that with like on this one we can put some wear strips on. We can do that because we can route out an inlay and lay in some brass. That's the plan, is to make it as sophisticated or as simple as you want. I don't think we can get much more simple than the original. That's just 2 bits of wood and a screw. That's the plan. But you can make it as complicated as you want. Okay, that's the video for today, number 2. Just watch out for the article itself, where I will do some photographs of this in the making, and then you can follow along with that. One thing else, I think Joe mentioned rock maple. He tried it on that and it tended to be a bit too soft. Beech is the traditional material, English beech in this case, but any beech. This I think is this is made of wenge, so that would be an ideal surface. Material. And then this is ebony. Yeah. So you know, as long as the wood's hard enough, it should withstand the rigours of use over many years. Okay, we'll see you again in video 3. Take care.